Hi, welcome to this video series covering the features of the toolbox called HyperWorks Lift Ship. In this video, I will be specifically covering model interrogation and preparation. In the previous video, I showed how to activate the toolbox and then also to import a ship constructor model, and that's what we see here. And as with any other kind of workflows, what we'll want to do is interrogate our model. Just kind of check on, make sure the metadata was imported, the geometry looks reasonable to proceed with the following steps, and obviously clean up the model. So here we have a ton of construction lines and points, and possibly some additional materials and properties and so forth. From a finite element analysis perspective, we may not need those. We also may want to modify some of the cards and properties and materials that came in. So we'll go ahead and do that here. So let's go ahead and rotate our model around, kind of get it into a good view. I will go ahead and I will try to do some of this directly from kind of clicking. So for example, clicking the lines. We could also do through this, the hot keys on your keyboard, such as L, would also activate lines. So we'll go ahead and right click and say select and displayed. And we'll just simply right click and say delete. We want to get rid of these lines. We won't be using those for our analysis. The next one we could double check on is points. So maybe I'll just hit P on my keyboard, update this to points, hit Control A, and note that there's no construction points for us to remove. Okay, so we may also want to look at the topology. We could do that down here and make sure that everything kind of got brought in as we would expect. So we have some solid geometry from the plates, and then our curved surfaces already came in as surfaces. We'll also be able to double click here and review our assemblies. This again should be coming from the metadata from Ship Constructor. And if you recall from our last video, there was a number of parts that didn't have any thickness. So we can, isolate those and just kind of double check on those as well. So we have some steps in our workflow to address mapping of thickness to these parts. So we'll go ahead and hit escape on our selector and redisplay the entire model with A. All right. Next, what we'll want to do is look at our materials. So we'll go ahead and double click, go to our material browser, and note all the different materials that came in. Some of these may not be necessary. So if we go back to model, say right click and go to unused, we can go ahead and just delete the ones that are not used. This isn't necessary, but again, we're talking about cleaning up the model. So back in our material browser, we can note that we have mostly the steel grade A is being used. And what we'll want to do is modify this to tons. So this will be E-9. And we'll want to change this to MPa. And then the other thing we might want to do, again, this potentially could come in as metadata, is activate our yield value. So Young's modulus, Poisson's density, and our yield. This will be used in our factor of safety calculation during post-processing. Okay. The next one we could do is follow that with our properties. Right click, say unused, see if there's anything that's in there. Nope. Everything looks like it's being used. And then we could just dive into the property browser. And as I mentioned, we have a step in our workflow to address the thickness, no thickness assignment. But something else we could also do, other than going to the assembly and isolating the parts, is we can also just type in our filter here and just hit enter, and we can preview all the different properties that don't have this thickness. So at this stage, the model is prepped. We've cleaned it, we've reviewed it. Basically, your acquiring information about your model. Maybe you didn't design this yourself, you got this from the designer, so it's really good to spend a little bit of time just to double check that everything was brought in, the units are correct, the assembly is correct, and so forth. We could also go ahead and save different views if you would like. We call this like the prep view, and as with any other best practices, I always recommend saving your models in different stages. So this might be a good spot to start and save the model since you've already imported from Ship Constructor and did the preparation. So this will conclude this video. I hope you found it helpful. Please leave us feedback on our Altair community forums, and I will see you in the next video.